There is a particular kind of exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure. You know the one. You wake up in the morning and before you have even fully opened your eyes, something in you already feels heavy. Not tired in the way that a long week of work makes you tired. Something deeper. A weariness that seems to come from a place inside you that predates the alarm clock, predates the obligations waiting on your phone, predates even the specific circumstances of your life. You lie there and you feel it. This strange, pervasive fatigue with the whole shape of things. The noise, the pace, the relentlessness of it all. The way people talk and what they talk about. The way systems work and who they work for. The grinding sensation of being expected to participate enthusiastically in something that feels, at its core, profoundly hollow. You have tried to explain this to people and watched their faces go politely blank. You have tried to push through it, to be more positive, to count your blessings, to stay busy so you don't have time to feel it. None of it works. The exhaustion remains, patient and insistent, like water finding its way through every crack. What if I told you that this tiredness is not a malfunction? What if it is, instead, the first signal of something waking up in you? There is a philosophical concept that Hannah Arendt explored with extraordinary precision, and it has almost nothing to do with what most people think of when they hear her name. Before she wrote about totalitarianism and the banality of evil, before she became the philosopher of political action and public life, she was a student of the interior. She understood that the human being exists in two registers simultaneously. There is the life lived outward, the vita activa, the doing and making and participating in the world. And then there is something else, a different kind of life, the vita contemplativa, the life of thought, of withdrawal, of the mind turning back upon itself to examine what it finds there. Arendt believed these two modes of existence were not opposites. They were not in war with each other, but she also understood, with unusual clarity, that most of us are dragged almost entirely into the outward life, leaving the interior one starved and restless. And that when the interior life begins to demand attention, it does not whisper politely. It makes you tired of everything you used to accept without question. What you are calling exhaustion with society may be precisely this. Not the burnout of someone who has worked too hard, though that is real and worth taking seriously. Not the bitterness of someone who has been disappointed too many times, though that too is real. What you may be experiencing is something rarer and more disorienting. The emergence of consciousness. The moment when the part of you that simply accepts begins to be replaced by the part of you that notices, observes, asks why, refuses to simply keep moving. This is not comfortable. In fact, it is one of the most uncomfortable transitions a human being can go through, because the culture we live in has no useful script for it, and no particular patience for those who are experiencing it. We live inside a civilization that is, at its structural core, oriented toward activity, toward production, toward the quantifiable, the measurable, the shareable. A life is understood to be successful insofar as it generates visible output, career achievements, social proof, the accumulation of experiences that can be narrated in a way others find impressive. The entire apparatus of modern life, from the design of our digital environments to the architecture of our economic systems, is built to keep us moving, consuming, producing, participating. And for a long time, many of us do exactly that. We move, we consume, we produce, we participate. We are, by external measures, functional members of society. But something underneath that surface activity begins to shift, often without any conscious intention on our part, and the exhaustion is the first sign that the shift has begun. If this perspective is opening something in you, consider subscribing. I explore these territories every week, and I would genuinely love to have you along for the journey. What does it mean to notice? This seems like a trivially simple question, but it is not. Real noticing, the kind that Arendt was pointing to when she spoke of thought as distinct from cognition, is an act of a different order than simply perceiving information. You can perceive information all day long and remain entirely unaware. You scroll, you consume, you're exposed to an almost incomprehensible volume of data about the world, and you process it. But processing is not noticing. Noticing requires a quality of attention that creates distance between you and what you are experiencing. Not the cold distance of detachment, but the lucid distance of genuine observation. The moment you begin to truly notice, you cannot unnotice. That is the difficult truth at the heart of what we are exploring here. I know many of you have been carrying this for a long time and have never quite had words for it. You have felt this exhaustion and wondered if something was wrong with you, if you were depressed or antisocial or simply not built for the world as it is. You have maybe kept it to yourself because the people around you seem fine, seem to be moving along without this particular weight on their shoulders, and that has made your own tiredness feel like a personal failing rather than what it actually is. So let me ask you directly, how long have you been feeling that society itself is somehow fundamentally off? That the things you are supposed to want do not actually speak to something real inside you? When did you first notice the gap between the life you were supposed to be living and the one you actually felt drawn toward? I want you to share in the comments, not because I need the numbers, but because someone else watching this right now needs to see your words. They need to know they are not alone in this. And if putting it into language feels too difficult right now, if it just feels like a weight without a name, simply type this: I feel it too. Because when you do, you give someone else permission to say the same. That matters more than you know. Here is what conventional wisdom tells you to do with the exhaustion we are describing. It tells you to take a vacation, to practice gratitude, to limit your news consumption, to find a better work-life balance, to meditate, exercise, sleep more, eat better, see a therapist. These are not worthless suggestions. Some of them will help with certain kinds of difficulty, but they are all, in their underlying assumption, trying to restore your capacity to function within the existing arrangement. They are treatments designed to make you more comfortable with what is, rather than invitations to understand what your discomfort is actually telling you. They treat the consciousness that is emerging in you as a problem to be managed rather than as an intelligence to be listened to. And this is a profound category error. Think about what happens when you place your hand too close to a flame. Pain is not a malfunction of your nervous system. Pain is your nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do, communicating critical information about your environment and your relationship to it. The exhaustion you feel in relation to society may be working in a structurally similar way. It is not evidence that you are broken. It is evidence that something in you, some layer of awareness that has been developing, perhaps without your conscious participation, has begun to recognize a genuine mismatch between the life you are living and something more fundamental that you carry inside you. The discomfort is the communication, and the question worth sitting with is not how to make the communication stop, but what exactly it is trying to tell you. Hannah Arendt wrote about something she called thoughtlessness, and it is worth examining carefully here, because it illuminates what is happening when this exhaustion begins. Thoughtlessness, in her usage, does not mean stupidity. She was not describing a deficit of intelligence. She was describing something more precise: the condition of participating in life, in systems, in social structures, without ever genuinely interrogating them. Of doing what is expected, saying what is conventional, occupying roles and following scripts without pausing to ask whether any of it corresponds to something real. She associated this thoughtlessness with significant danger at the collective level, And history has given us ample evidence of what that danger looks like when it scales. But she also recognized its costs at the individual level. A life lived in thoughtlessness, regardless of its external appearance of success, is a life in which the deepest capacities of the human being remain largely dormant. And those capacities, once they begin to stir, do not accept renewed dormancy easily. The tiredness you feel may be the first consequence of thought beginning to stir, of something in you moving from participation to observation. This is, in a real sense, a form of awakening, though I want to be precise about what I mean by that word, because it has been used so carelessly in so many contexts that it barely retains meaning. Awakening is not a mystical event. It is not the achievement of some elevated state. It is simply the experience of the observing capacity in you becoming stronger than the habit of automatic participation. You begin to see the machinery of social reality rather than simply moving within it. You begin to notice the assumptions built into ordinary conversation, the values embedded in institutional structures, the stories a culture tells about what a good life looks like and what a wasted one does. You see it, and you cannot easily unsee it. And that seeing is disorienting, even painful, because it places you in a different relationship to everything you used to simply inhabit. Consider what happens to someone who grows up inside a particular tradition, whatever that tradition might be, and then one day begins to perceive it from the outside. The tradition itself has not changed, but something in the person has shifted, and suddenly what was invisible because it was simply the air they breathed becomes visible as a specific construction, a set of choices made by specific human beings at specific moments in history, choices that could have been made differently and can still be made differently. This is disorienting not because the tradition is necessarily wrong, but because the comfort of unconscious belonging has been replaced by the discomfort of conscious examination. You can no longer simply believe. You must now choose. And choosing is infinitely harder than belonging. This is, in miniature, what many people are experiencing in relation to society as a whole. The matrix of assumptions that constituted reality has become visible as a matrix, and once you see the frame, you can no longer simply live inside the picture. The question that this realization raises, and it is perhaps the most important question, is what to do with this new perception. Because there is a particular trap that many people fall into at precisely this moment. Arendt herself would have recognized it immediately. The trap is this. You take your newly awakened perception and you use it primarily to generate refusal, rejection, contempt. You become someone defined by what you are against. The exhaustion with society curdles into cynicism. The clarity about what is hollow becomes a kind of armor that keeps you at a distance from everything, including the things that might genuinely nourish you. This is understandable. When you have been inside something uncritically and then you begin to see its failures and contradictions, the initial impulse is to push it away entirely, to say no to all of it, to define yourself through negation. But this is not freedom. It is merely the opposite pole of the same magnetic attraction. If what I have been sharing here has been resonating with something you have felt but perhaps never articulated, I want to invite you to consider staying on this journey with me. There are many of us exploring these questions, sitting with the discomfort of genuine thought, learning to see without immediately needing to judge or fix or flee. I create these videos for people who want to go deeper than the surface, who are not satisfied with practical tips for feeling better, but want to understand something real about the nature of their experience. Not because understanding automatically solves anything, but because genuine understanding changes the ground on which you stand. If that kind of exploration matters to you, subscribe. Not because you need another obligation, but because it helps to have companions when you are in unfamiliar territory. I will be here every week, pulling on another thread, and I would be honored to have you along for it. Real freedom, the kind that Arendt spent her life thinking about, is not freedom from. It is not the freedom of the person who has successfully escaped all obligations and now floats untethered above the world. That is not freedom. That is exile. Real freedom is the capacity to participate consciously, to engage with the structures and demands of collective life without losing the thread of your own thinking in the process. It is the freedom of someone who can be fully in the world because they have also developed the capacity to step back from it, to examine it, to see it whole, rather than simply being consumed by it. This is what Arendt meant when she spoke of the space of appearance, the possibility of showing up in public life as a genuine person rather than as a role. The person who can do this is not someone who has escaped society. They are someone who has developed enough interior life to engage with society without being devoured by it. What this means practically, and I want to be careful here not to offer a prescription where only an orientation is appropriate, is that the exhaustion you feel is an invitation to develop something. Not to discard the world, but to develop the capacity for genuine thought about the world. To cultivate the vita contemplativa that Arendt believed was not a luxury, but a necessity for genuine human existence. This does not require a monastery or a dramatic life change. It requires, in its most essential form, something far simpler and far more demanding: time in which you think rather than consume. Attention turned inward with the same seriousness you might give to anything else that matters to you. A willingness to sit with questions that do not have easy answers, and to resist the pressure to resolve that discomfort with a quick opinion or a borrowed certainty. The tiredness that brought you to this video is real. It is not weakness. It is not ingratitude. It is not a sign that you need to be fixed. It is, in all likelihood, the signal of a consciousness that has begun to outgrow the purely automatic mode of existence and is now asking for something more, something quieter and more genuine, something that the noise of ordinary life has not been providing. The question is not whether you are right to feel it. Of course you are. The question is what you will do with it, whether you will medicate it back into silence or use it as the beginning of a different kind of attention to your own life and the world you inhabit. You came to this video because something in the title named something you have been carrying. That is not an accident. The fact that you are asking these questions, the fact that you can no longer simply go along without noticing, that you have arrived at this particular exhaustion with the way things are, this is not your problem. It may, in fact, be the most important thing happening in you right now. And if you sit with it rather than rush past it, if you let the discomfort of genuine thought do its work, rather than looking immediately for relief, you may find something waiting on the other side of that exhaustion that is not emptiness, but a kind of clarity you had not previously known you were capable of. The world will not look the same, but you may find that you are finally, genuinely inhabiting it.